It's a scorching day in Buenos Aires for the Argentinian Grand Prix. Enjoy the race on ITV with James Allen and Louise Goodman in the pits and commentators Martin Brundle and Murray Walker.
A very fine Argentinian afternoon to you from sunny Buenos Aires, where the temperature has been rising steadily and is now 28 degrees with a track temperature of 33 degrees. Some people down there are going to be happy about that, others are not. The ones that are going to be happy are the McLaren team, the Benetton team and the Jordan team, because they are running on hard compound Goodyear tyres. The Bridgestone runners up front are going to be very happy about it too. Olivier Panis starting third on the grid. Rubens Barrichello, a magnificent fifth in the Stewart Ford. But others are not going to be so happy, because those who are on soft compound tyres will want the temperature to come down a bit. Strategy is going to be the name of the game in this 72-lap race, 190.5 miles on a track which is notoriously difficult to pass. We even hear that some drivers are likely to be stopping 3 times. A hot favourite for the race is Olivier Panis, starting third in the Prost Mugen. He, we believe, is going to be stopping just once. And bear this in mind and look at that grid, because there are some midfield chargers that we don't normally expect to be where they are. David Coulthard, the winner of the Australian Grand Prix, is starting 10th. Jean Alesi and Gerhard Berger, after an awful qualifying period, are starting down at 11th and 12th in their Benettons. Mika Hakkinen is starting 17th. Johnny Herbert is ahead of them in the Sauber in 5th place. Eddie Irvine in the Ferrari is in 7th place. But remember, Jacques Villeneuve is not at all well, and that is a masterpiece of understatement. Remember, too, that Damon Hill was not at all well after 3 days of problems when he won here last year. So, because Villeneuve is feeling a bit dodgy, doesn't mean to say that adrenaline will not conquer all. Heinz-Harald Frentzen has had a nasty attack of flu, but told me this morning he was feeling a lot better. But altogether, Martin, an unpredictable Argentine Grand Prix.
Well, it's a tough racetrack, and it's an easy racetrack to make a mistake on, because it's so dirty offline and generally so slippery, although the softer tyres from the tyre war that's developing this year means that the cars do have a lot more grip and they are handling a lot better. I'm still expecting there to be a few tears at various points of the race, not least into the first corner. But you're absolutely right, Mary. We've really got 3 combinations on the grid. The softer Goodyear runners who've gone very, very well in qualifying, the harder Goodyear runners, and then the Bridgestone people, the people out of position on the grid. We should see a lot of movement through the day. It's a full 5 degrees hotter than at any other time this weekend. I had a pet theory, and most of my engineers used to laugh at me, but Sunday, I used to say this so many times on a Sunday afternoon just before the Grand Prix, why is it always hotter on a Sunday? We're on the edge of a big city, and my pet theory was people are not in the traffic jams, they're not going to work, and I could guarantee it would be 3-4 degrees hotter on such a day. They laughed me out of the pits with that one, but it just seems to keep happening. And here we are, and the effect that has is the oils that are in the track and the rubbish that's in the track and the old rubber that's on the surface of the track is that bit hotter, that bit more liquid, that bit more slippery. The tyre compounds, which are so carefully chosen to work with the tarmac, with the surface itself, they run 5 degrees hotter also, and sometimes that tips them just over the top, and we'll see this afternoon what effect that will have.
It is a flat track, hardly any gradient at all. There are 17 turns. I say again, it's difficult to pass. The first corner is a very tight right-hander where it's difficult to see the apex. Jacques Villeneuve was complaining about that yesterday and said he was expecting problems at the first corner. Well, we're used to that sort of thing happening at Monaco, and I remember that Jean Alesi in the Ferrari took a lot of people off after the start of one of the past Argentinian Grand Prix, so let's hope it doesn't happen again. But on the left of your picture is Jacques Villeneuve in pole position as we start the formation lap.
And we've got one car stalled on the grid. Is that Frentzen? And he's away now. Now he will be allowed to make up that position. He didn't drop to the back of the field he will be able to feed his way through. It's a bit of a grey area. If the field passes you, you must stay at the back. The field did not pass him, and I believe he will be able to rejoin his original grid position as they're making their way carefully around the warm-up lap.
But will he know that, Martin? You're on top of the rules. Is Frentzen going to know that?
Well,
yes, he does.
Yes,
yeah, he does, all right.
Yeah.
He passes Schumacher.
And the reason they have that regulation is you'll see the cars snaking around trying to warm their tyres up, and if a car is feeding his way through the grid, it can cause an accident. When you're on a warm-up lap, you do not expect to be overtaken, and you're not looking out for it. But, of course, he didn't drop fully to the back, so very rightly so, he's making his way through.
A bit of an irony for Michael Schumacher, who got badly penalised at the British Grand Prix for passing after he had started from the grid in pole position and dropped back, and he retook his position and got the black flag for it.
That's right, he was second on the grid. He overtook Damon Hill on the warm-up lap and got penalised for that. Some of the cars will snake around. There he is making up another place. Some of the cars snake around. It's a bit of a waste of time. You cannot warm your tyres up with any effect whatsoever. You need a lot of speed and a lot of downforce to do that.
That's Magnussen in the Stuart Ford that Frentzen has just gone past. So that leaves just now Michael Schumacher and Olivier Panis in the blue Prost.
Yes, and Frentzen's just about to take Schumacher there. Now he's made his way back to his position. And in the warm-up this morning, those starting on the left were taking the left-hand side of the pit straight to clean their grid slots. So Schumacher's coming across very late to try to keep his tyres as clean as possible.
Right, well, that will have got Frentzen's adrenaline going. Villeneuve on the left in pole position. On the right in the front is Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Behind Villeneuve is Olivier Panis. And behind Frentzen is Michael Schumacher in the Scarlet Ferrari. Look for the arrows of Pedro Diniz coming into the picture at the back if we're looking from the front of the grid, but we're not going to, because the 72-lap Argentine Grand Prix is about to begin. And away goes Villeneuve, a very, very long hold. Remember, this first corner is the challenge. Panis charging up. He's lost a lot of places because you can see the two Ferraris have moved up behind the two Williams, and it's a spinner. That's Barrichello. Barrichello has been spun by one of the Ferraris, but whether it was Michael Schumacher or Eddie Irvine, I don't know. Debris on the track, people going onto the grass. Are they going to be able to get those cars clear? There's Rubens Barrichello restarting. Now, was it Schumacher or was it Irvine? We desperately need to know, but the race looks as though it is not going to be stopped. There is no activity here in the start and finish area, and Jacques Villeneuve is leading with Heinz-Harald Frentzen in second position. Wheel off somebody's car. That'll be the Ferrari, I guess.
There's a lot of debris in that first corner. There is enough space there. They should be able to cover that with waved yellows, but there's a lot of debris. I think they'll cover it with waved yellows, but it's clearly Schumacher. Barrichello obviously got ahead of him on the start.
Yeah, Schumacher. So the safety car is coming out. Now, this is the first time in the history of Formula One that the safety car has come out as early as this. What is the safety car? Well, there is the answer. It is a touring car, and now as they remove the broken McLaren with the wheel missing, I'm sorry I didn't spot whether it was Mika Häkkinen or David Coulthard, but we'll let you know as soon as possible. Meantime, out goes Michael Schumacher. There is a wing from the Stewart, and this is really throwing the race wide open. But Jacques Villeneuve will not be unhappy about his situation.
I mean, they're actually waving a red flag there, which is contrary to our information. They should be waving a white flag and a yellow flag, not a red flag.
Now, let's try and pick up...
No, they've obviously changed their mind and decided to red flag the race. So, I mean, there's either some confusion here in the steward's office, or the marshals are not understanding their instructions.
Well, we're looking back from the safety car now, and you can see Jacques Villeneuve, followed by Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Olivier Panis is third. Behind Panis is in fourth position Eddie Irvine. Fifth in the yellow car, which you'll see in a moment, is Giancarlo Fisichella. And In 6th place is Damon Hill in the Arrows, ahead of Johnny Herbert, with Ralph Schumacher 8th, Alesi is 9th. Now, the deal from now on is that the safety car, there is no red flag, and there are no red lights, so the race is not being stopped as they remove Schumacher's car.
Schumacher's sprinting back to the pits. He saw the red flags. He thinks the race is going to be restarted. There's total confusion there between the instructions from race control and the marshals. And here we go. It's Schumacher just tipping Barrichello on his left rear, and then they're tangling amongst themselves. And then there was further carnage after that. In fact, there's going to be a lot of damage out there.
Poor Rubens Barrichello, after qualifying 5th. There is a replay. Look, you see Schumacher drifts into the Stewart. Look at the Johnny Herbert behind in the Sauber. There's Damon Hill passing Herbert.
And the McLaren hit Fisichella also, and that's where he lost his front left.
That's Gerhard Berger running wide. So all sorts of changes that we didn't expect, obviously. But I say again, the safety car will keep them in order. They're not allowed to pass behind the safety car. They have to line up, and when the safety car lights go out on its roof, the drivers in the race will know that it is going to peel into the pit lane next time round as Michael Schumacher confidently but ill-advisedly runs in.
Well, I think he's going to be pretty unhappy when he gets back. But Barrichello, we saw him drive away from the incident, and our pit crew tell us that he's had a new nose and a new front wing put on the car, and he's going to rejoin the race. I think he's going to just be a lap down. If I just caught him out of the corner of my eye leaving the pit lane, he may have got out. No, he's still in the pits, in fact, unless that's Magnussen. He may have got out ahead of the pace car, in which case he can cruise round to the back of the field and stay on the lead lap. Let's wait and see.
Yeah, and the man that you see walking in, Michael Schumacher, of course, is 4th in the World Championship. This is terrible news for him, because he was only 2 points behind the joint leaders, Jacques Villeneuve and David Coulthard, when this race started. And it's Magnussen that's been in for a replacement nose on the Stewart. And you can tell from Michael Schumacher's stern marching body language that he's not at all happy with his situation, understandably.
I think Barrichello may have just got out of the pits in front of the safety car. Unfortunately, Magnussen wasn't able to do so. But we need everybody in this race we can get, because I think there's a lot of damaged cars out there. Probably 5 or 6 cars that are going to have some kind of damage from that accident. And I think 2 or 3 of them are still on the racetrack, still running.
Safety car still out there. Villeneuve, Frentzen, Panis, Irvine, Fisichella, Damon Hill. Magnussen is in 7th position, or according to our information. No, he's not, because there's Johnny Herbert behind Damon Hill, and Ralph Schumacher is in 8th place. Now, look, there is the safety car. This is what happens. You can see that it's driving round, and they're in a situation now which is a bad one, actually, because they are running much slower than they normally do, so their tyres will lose temperature and therefore grip, although the fact that the temperature here on the track is some 33 degrees will be very helpful. But as I say, when that flashing light on top of the safety car goes out and it goes into the pit lane, the race restarts. Yeah, that safety car's tarting around. It's just going way too slowly. Even in first gear, these cars cannot go slow enough to stay behind that Mercedes. And in any event, the guy has not got that. He should have it on his door handles going around there to go as fast as... Look, Villeneuve's making himself some space to try to accelerate and keep his tyre temperatures up as much as he can. Now they'll all follow suit, but their tyre temperatures will go down, their tyre pressures will drop by 2 or 3 psi now, and it's going to be a problem when they restart. And Heinz-Harald Frentzen is trying to make sure that Villeneuve does not break away when the race restarts, which it has not yet done. He's tucked up under the wing of Villeneuve. Yes, the race won't restart. The safety car must switch his lights off as he crosses the start-finish line. That tells the drivers he's going in the pits at the end of that lap, so they don't really have to get too excited until those lights go out. Then they know they're leading into the restart of the race. Now, we've had 3 laps of the Argentinian Grand Prix, It's a 72-lap race. The fact that the safety car is out does not affect the length of the race at all, because they are officially still racing, although they are in a hold situation behind the safety car.
There are 3 ways of controlling the cars at once. Now let's watch this.
This is Panis, and this is a replay of the start. Now you'll see.
Now Schumacher will understeer wide and just gently touch the back of Barrichello's car. We missed it, unfortunately.
Well, it would have been very nice indeed, folks, to have been able to see that replay, just as we were getting wound up about telling you what was happening. Not our fault. Here's one.
There's Schumacher just understeers wide and then catches his front left, and the 2 cars are, well, stuck together, and they're going no further. But Barrichello managed to reverse his out of there and get it back to the pits. Well done for keeping your head into gear, Rubens. Look, he just slid wide, and it was all down to Schumacher. Barrichello was giving him plenty of room, and Barrichello's got his foot on the throttle. Look, that's where all that smoke is coming from. He's keeping his engine running. He's being sure not to stall his engine.
And that's Gerhard Berger. Well, yesterday, Jackie Stewart said to Rubens Barrichello, if you qualify in the top 6, Rubens, you get a Rolex watch. And when Rubens drove in, having qualified in 5th position, he literally threw his wristwatch out of the cockpit, and he's now eagerly looking for his new one. But sadly, he's not going to get anything from this race.
Quick shot there of David.
Lights out,
Coulthard. Quick shot there of David Coulthard having an interview. Clearly, it was his McLaren that lost the wheel. So now the safety car is going to peel off into the pit lane this time.
And the Grand Prix will restart with 3 laps having been completed. They're coming up into turn 16 now. Turn 17 is the kink, the left-hander before the start and finish straight. And here we go. The situation is go. And Villeneuve leads. Frentzen second. Panis is third. Eddie Irvine is fourth. Fisichella in the yellow Jordan is fifth. And up behind Fisichella is Damon Hill, with Johnny Herbert in the Sauber swarming all over the arrows. And remember, Jacques Villeneuve is a sick man, but as I said earlier on, adrenaline can and probably will conquer all. He's looking to put clear space between himself and Frentzen, but Frentzen has got Olivier Panis underneath his rear wing on parts of the course. Damon Hill stays ahead of Herbert. Behind Herbert is Ralf Schumacher, and the remaining in the top 10 are Jean Alesi 9th, and Pedro Diniz in the second arrows, who, like Hill, made up spaces, is in 10th position. That's good news for the arrows team.
Yes, Diniz made a full 10 places in that melee and did extremely well. Just to finish off what I was saying, there are 3 ways of controlling that incident. Either they do double wave yellow to tell the drivers to slow down with that first corner incident between Schumacher and Barrichello, or they put out the safety car, or they red flag the race. They chose the safety car.
Yeah, and Panis is pushing Frentzen very hard indeed. Olivier Panis is wanting Jacques Villeneuve not to get away. Now, we think Panis is on a 1-stop strategy. We think Villeneuve is on a 2-stop strategy. And therefore, Jacques Villeneuve needs to stretch time and distance between himself and the pass in order to prevent Panis from getting an advantage from his 1-stop strategy. So there is Panis. He's got to get past Frentzen. That is Eddie Irvine well up in the Ferrari. And now Ralf Schumacher is starting to challenge Johnny Herbert. Ralf Schumacher is 8th. So Frentzen, Panis is 3rd. And look now at the end of the 5th lap, and we're on lap 6 now.
That's a Williams.
And Panis goes straight past the Williams of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. He's up into 6th position. Frentzen is out of the Grand Prix. So once again, Heinz-Harald Frentzen's bad luck bogey has struck. He really does have the most appalling luck.
That happened to him this morning in the warm-up. His car failed on the outlap. It was a fuel hose union. And apparently the same car. It was a fuel union onto the back of the monocoque to connect the engine to the fuel tank, and could be the same again.
Okay, now listen to this. The gap between Villeneuve and Panis was 2.3 seconds at the end of lap 5. We're with Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who must be absolutely heartbroken. And Louise Goodman is with David Coulthard. What happened, Louise?
David, you're back down in the garage sooner than we expected to see you.
Yeah, I thought there may be trouble at the first corner, but
I was hoping that it wouldn't involve me. But I think as a chain reaction of Michael and Rubens, one of the Jordans had to move. And unfortunately, I was in that place, so I lost my front wheel.
Is that taking the sting out of your World Championship push?
I didn't hear your question, so I'll say that... actually, I didn't hear the question.
I was just saying that's the second race after winning the first race. That's 2 races in a row when you've not scored more points. Does that take the sting out of your World Championship push to have that happen so early in the season?
Yeah, my goal at the start of the season was to finish every race, ideally in the points. And obviously that failed in Brazil when I finished 10th, and then it's a double failure here because I haven't even made it past the first lap. So very disappointing, but onwards to Imola.
Thanks very much, David.
The Argentinian Grand Prix as Heinz-Harald Frentzen broken-heartedly walks in after a terrible weekend, and he has still to score World Championship points, and this is the 3rd race. But the race up front, as you look at Eddie Irvine now in 3rd position, is between Villeneuve and Panis is the fastest man on the track. He's gone round half a second quicker than Jacques Villeneuve. He's going to get the French-Canadian under pressure as much as he possibly can. Remember, different tyre strategies. Remember, Villeneuve is not well.
Yes, Panis tried both 1-stop and 2-stop fuel this morning. And I just wonder if Alan Prost has elected to do a 2-stop strategy and take the race to the Williams, because I believe their car is fast enough to win this race on merit without having to plod around on a 1-stop. Or if he is 1-stopping and he's carrying that kind of speed, he's looking extremely strong.
And we're riding now with Giancarlo, or is it Schumacher? No, it's Schumacher passing Damon Hill. Ralf Schumacher passes Damon Hill and moves up into 5th place. Lap 8 at Buenos Aires, race order. Jacques Villeneuve leads Olivier Panis. And that's the Williams versus the Prost. 3rd position, Eddie Irvine, Ferrari. 4th place, Fisichella in the Jordan. 5th position now, Ralf Schumacher, who's pushed Damon Hill down to 6th place. There's the race leader, there is Panis. That is Eddie Irvine in 3rd place. And you can see that Irvine is being caught by Fisichella. He's being caught at the rate of about 0.2 of a second a lap at the present moment. And in 7th position is Johnny Herbert. Now, Rubens Barrichello is in the race. He's not only in the race, he's really flying. He was 20th, he's now 15th, and he's catching Gerhard Berger's Benetton, which is in 4th place. Here is the battle between Eddie Irvine and Fisichella. And here is the battle, and it is a battle, no mistake about it. Villeneuve is being caught by Olivier Panis.
Yeah, well, Panis is taking 0.3 of a second on the last lap, and really looking extremely strong. Another team who looked very, very strong this afternoon already are the two Jordans in 4th and 5th place. We know they're on the hard tyres. They may be trying to go 1-stop with a view to 2-stopping if the tyres go away from them. So I think they're also looking extremely strong. Panis, the 2 Jordans, Villeneuve's got it all to do this afternoon. It doesn't look like it's going to be a walk in the park today.
And we already have a new lap record. It's been broken by some 0.4 of a second on lap 8 by Olivier Panis. And it's really great to be talking about Panis, about the Prost, about the Mugen engine, about the Bridgestone tyres that they're using. We've seen Williams ruling the roost for so very long, and good luck to them. They deserve their success. But here is a new man making his mark. The man who won the Monaco Grand Prix in a Ligier, of course, last year. Olivier Panis, an enormous amount of race experience now, tremendous amount of race mileages, because the one thing that the Ligier always was reliable, and Panis racked up the miles and a lot of 7th places out of the World Championship points, but now he's going for broke and victory.
I was in the gym with Olivier last night, and that's just how hard he's working at the moment. Even the night before the race, he's in the gymnasium. And I said to him, how does the car feel? He said, Martin, it's absolutely fantastic. It does everything I wanted to do. I really love driving it. I said, but the pace of this race is going to take it out of you. And he said, no, I'm fit. I'm ready to go. It's no problem for me. So Panis has a lot of confidence behind that steering wheel.
Well, I don't know what sort of an effect medically adrenaline has, but Jacques Villeneuve is going to need all of it. We're on lap 10 at the moment. There's still 62 laps to go. This race is scheduled to last something like an hour and 3/4. There's going to be an enormous amount of pressure, both physical and psychological, on Jacques Villeneuve. But if anybody can stand it, he is the man who can. He won in Brazil. He's leading the World Championship. David Coulthard, of course, is out of this race, as is Michael Schumacher, as is Heinz-Harald Frentzen. So we've already lost 3 of the top runners from the 22 who started. And Nakano, the Japanese driver in the other Prost, is 19th and last at the present moment, and the race order on lap 10. As you watch Villeneuve leading Panis, they are now some 10 seconds ahead of Eddie Irvine, who is 1.5 seconds ahead of Fisichella's Jordan. The other Jordan of Ralf Schumacher is 5th and catching Fisichella. 6th is Johnny Herbert, 7th is Damon Hill, 8th, 9th, 10th are Alesi, Diniz and Verstappen. So Jacques Villeneuve sees the Prost big in his mirrors. He's going to be trying, of course, desperately to keep it there for the rest of this race. But it's Villeneuve, Panis, Irvine, Fisichella, Schumacher and Herbert. Lap 12 at Buenos Aires, and welcome back. You have missed nothing. If you had, we would have shown you. The situation now is as it was when you left. There it is. Jacques Villeneuve leads Olivier Panis, but we think that Villeneuve is on a 2-stop strategy. We think that Panis is on a 1-stop strategy. And Villeneuve's lead, which is currently about 2 seconds, needs to build to some 20 seconds to compensate for his strategy. As Eddie Irvine comes towards us in 3rd place, well up in the Ferrari. His teammate, of course, Michael Schumacher, out on the first lap as a result of that coming together with Rubens Barrichello at the start. And Fisichella is still in 4th place ahead of Johnny Herbert in 5th position, Ralf Schumacher 6th and Damon Hill in 7th place, and Rubens Barrichello, who started 20th, is climbing through the field in the Stewart and is now up to a brilliant 12th place.
That's right, Barrichello was 3rd fastest car on the track on that lap, only slower than the Villeneuve and Panis in 1st and 2nd place. He looks like he's in for a great afternoon of fun, slicing his way through. Interestingly, I noticed the Bridgestone guys have just settled down a little bit. I wonder if those slow laps hurt the Goodyear runners more than the Bridgestone runners for some reason, because it now seems to have stabilized a little bit. And I think it took Villeneuve at least 2 or 3 laps to get those tyre temperature and pressures back where he needed them for the handling of the car. And the construction of those tyres is completely different between those 2 cars. And maybe that's why they've settled down into this pattern, because Panis has stopped the relentless pursuit of Villeneuve. And he's actually slipping back now about 3 to 5 tenths per lap.
Yeah. But the temperature is still rising. It's 34 degrees, and James Allen can tell us about Heinz-Harald Frentzen.
Well, Murray, I can tell you that I'm standing over the shoulder, looking over the shoulder of Patrick Head, the technical director of the Williams team, who's staring at the telemetry, and they're basically just scratching their heads. They cannot understand what the problem is with Heinz-Harald Frentzen's car. We're all waiting for him to come back into the paddock, and as soon as he comes back, I will tell you exactly what's wrong with it. But a lot of head scratching and a lot of frustration as well for Patrick Head. He's a technical man, doesn't like to know that one of his cars has failed without knowing why. Michael Schumacher, meanwhile, came steaming in. You saw him with his helmet on, straight into the company office, slammed the door. No sign of him for the rest of the afternoon, I imagine.
Now, there's a surprise for us. Michael Schumacher must be really, really fed up, because he's lost, I would think, a certain 4 World Championship points in this race. He was 2 behind Villeneuve and Coulthard when the race started. And Jacques Villeneuve is starting to stretch away a little bit from Olivier Panis. The lead is about 2.7 seconds. Now, we're on lap 14 out of 72 as Panis comes out of the Senna S up towards turn 16, which is the very slow right-hander. Eddie Irvine now is there. But look at Johnny Herbert with the red helmet in the Sauber. Johnny Herbert in 5th place is catching, has caught Gianpaolo Fisichella. And Herbert is absolutely delighted delighted with the handling of his Sauber, especially on full tanks. As we watch Damon Hill, he's still ahead of Jean Alesi. And look at this match. It is Verstappen, Hakkinen, Barrichello.
Yes, Rubens has pulled himself up onto the back there now, and there's 5 cars within just over 2.5 seconds, so there's going to be some scrapping going on there. But really the only clear-cut overtaking opportunity here is at the end of the pit straight into turn 1, if you've got good straight line speed. If you do it around the back of the circuit into the hairpins, it can so easily end in tears with tangling of wheels and tripping over each other.
Well, at the present moment, Jacques Villeneuve there is certainly making me look a bit old-fashioned, because as we ride with him now in the Williams with a clear track in front of us, his pace is, if anything, increasing. But Olivier Panis is still the man with the fastest lap, 1 minute 29, compared with the previous lap record of Jean Alesi in the Benetton, 1 minute 29.4, and that's about 106.5 miles an hour. This is the Senna S. We exit it with Villeneuve. Now accelerate up to 150 miles an hour, back off to 50 miles an hour here. This is turn 16, the Horquilla, and that is Olivier Panis. Now the gap at the end of lap 14 was 3.3 seconds. Here is Jacques Villeneuve crossing the line, and I think he's extending his lead over Olivier Panis. Yes, he has, nearly a second. More news on Heinz-Harald Frentzen from James Allen.
Well, Murray, success at last, pouring through the computers. Patrick Head, the technical department here at Williams. They say that the DDS, the driver's disengagement system, has come into force. In other words, the clutch has disengaged itself. Now, whether that's something that's operated by the driver or whether it's something that is an automatic thing, Martin will have to tell us. But basically, Frentzen lost all drive because his clutch failed.
Well, that's certainly something I'm not going to have as an optional extra on mine in the new next motor car. What do you think, Martin?
I think they're talking about if you spin the car, they have a mechanism to pull the clutch in to avoid stalling the engine. I think that's what they're talking about. And obviously it's pulled itself in, and the clutch is open, and he's got no drive.
Now, Damon Hill there is driving an absolutely superb race. He's only 1 place out of the points, and the man he's holding off is no less a man than Jean Alesi. Now, it's conventional wisdom that the Arrows is not nearly as quick with its Yamaha engine as the Benetton is with its Renault engine. They're on different tyres. Hill is on Bridgestone and Alesi is on Goodyear's, but this is a great scrap.
Yes, Damon Carr's going to feel pretty fat at the moment. He's on a one-stop strategy coming in around lap 36. Certainly that was the intention when he started the race, so he'll have his hands full keeping Jean Alesi behind him.
But Martin, look at Pedro Diniz. He's in 9th place behind Alesi. He's made up more positions.
Well, don't underestimate Pedro Diniz. We've all been very, very pleasantly surprised within the team, I have to say. And he's running well ahead of Hakkinen and co, and doing a great job.
Here he comes. That's Pedro Diniz with the yellow mirrors. Is Jos Verstappen. Behind Verstappen is Mika Hakkinen in 11th place. Then it's Rubens Barrichello. There he is. Rubens Barrichello up from 20th. Now, Barrichello is only 1 second behind Verstappen, who is in 10th place. And this is magnificent. Look.
Yes, Barrichello's just going to have to get very rude to pass those cars. He does not have the straight line speed. He's about 5 kilometers an hour down on, say, for example, the McLaren in front of him. And I don't see any other way of getting past him other than pressurizing him and then giving him a little nudge or just having a stab up the inside.
Martin, that is a very wide, infinitely adjustable Arrows that Damon Hill is driving.
Well, and so it should be. It's a critical stage of the race. He doesn't want to... I believe Alesi could have one-stop fuel in that car, and I believe they could be making their minds up as the race unfolds. But he doesn't want Alesi to get past because he knows Alesi will pull away. And later on in the race, that may hurt him. Damon's in 7th. He's in sight of some points, and he's got to hold him up. That's his job.
Words of praise for Verstappen there, who is following Pedro Diniz as we watch Alesi pressing Damon Hill, because Jos Verstappen in the Tyrrell, which has not shone this season in Australia and Brazil, that's the car with the high-mounted wings with the yellow flashes. There is Mika Hakkinen, and behind Mika Hakkinen is Rubens Barrichello, still looking for his opportunity to pass. But Jos Verstappen, the Dutchman, is in the Tyrrell. He's had some engine changes for qualifying, which have not been used in the race, but Verstappen has got a very handy motor car for this sort of going. So, Hill, 7th position. Alesi, 8th position. They're coming through to complete lap 18, and Villeneuve is now 6.5 seconds ahead of Panis as we ride with Alesi.
Alesi will catch Damon here, but is he quite? I don't think he's quite close. Damon protecting the inside line, and Jean will have a stab down the outside. They're going to touch if they're not careful.
Yes,
they have.
You're right. Alesi's done it again, and Damon goes off, and past Damon goes Diniz, Verstappen, Häkkinen, Barrichello, and Verstappen now is pushing Pedro Diniz, who's moved up 2 places. So Pedro Diniz is now in 7th position, but I didn't see whether Damon rejoined. Did you?
Yes, he did. Damon rejoined. That was Jean having a stab down the outside, is saying, look, I've got the line, I'm coming in. He does that too much, I have to say. Damon had nowhere to go, and they were going to touch. Damon either had to give the corner up to Alesi's determination and slight arrogance there, I have to say, because he wasn't far enough ahead to say, that is my corner, move over, chap.
Well, both Hill and Alesi have rejoined, and you're looking at Rubens Barrichello now. Rubens Barrichello chasing Verstappen and chasing Häkkinen. There is the Brazilian, Barrichello. There is the Finnish driver, Mika Häkkinen. We're riding with him now, and Mika Häkkinen has got Jos Verstappen's Tyrrell in front of him on lap 19 out of 72, and Jos Verstappen in the white Tyrrell has got Pedro Diniz's arrows in front of him. And hats off to Pedro, he is doing a great job. There he is.
Yes, he's up to 7th place now and under some pressure, so we'll see how he copes with that pressure. Häkkinen's struggling, as he has been all weekend.
Yeah, Martin, but Barrichello at the back is being caught by Damon Hill, and Damon Hill has got Alesi behind him again. Here's a replay.
Yes, and he's saying, OK, it's my corner, I'm coming over whether you like it or not, and Damon says, not that easy, I'm not having that, and that's it. But unfortunately, there was just enough momentum to tip Damon around the pendulum effect. The engine tried to overtake him. It was such a gentle touch, but it was enough.
Look at that. That is the Williams pit crew waiting to bring Villeneuve in. It's not Frentzen, of course, because Frentzen is long gone out of this race 12 laps ago, in fact. And Jacques Villeneuve has got a lead now of some 7, and Olivier Panis retires. And that removes all the pressure from Jacques Villeneuve, because Eddie Irvine is some 19 seconds behind the French-Canadian. Bitter goal for poor Olivier, who drove so brilliantly in qualifying to take 3rd place on the grid, to harry Jacques Villeneuve, to look good with a different strategy to the French-Canadian. But Villeneuve now, I think, has only got his physical condition between him and a 2nd victory out of 3 races in 1997.
I think the Williams are preparing to come in. It would suggest initially a 3-stop strategy. I think they'll still stick to a 2. They're just stopping early for this first set. I mean, if you split the race into 4 sections, that's 4 lots of 18 laps, and that's Panis just pulling off on the back straight. Clearly some kind of mechanical problem. It's not a big engine problem or anything like that. It's going to be a fuel or most likely an engine problem, but an electrical problem, I should say.
Well, Panis finished in 5th position in Australia. He finished in 3rd place in Brazil, and now he dejectedly gets out of the Prost. If the progression had been maintained, he would have been 1st here in Argentina, but it was not to be. It looks as though it might well be to be for that man, Jacques Villeneuve, now 19 seconds ahead of Eddie Irvine.
They may well stretch this now for Villeneuve, now that Panis has dropped out. This is the sign of a great team. This team is used to winning championships and races. They can think on their feet. They've not uncovered those tyres. They're ready for the pit stop. In fact, they're out way early. They're not supposed to come out into the pit lane until they're absolutely ready to make that change. But I suspect they've just stretched this first stint to be... there's no reason now to stop early for Villeneuve.
Well, this is almost literally a country-mile lead as we watch Eddie Irvine. The highest he has finished in a race is 3rd position. And you're looking now at Johnny Herbert in the red helmet pushing Fisichella. Fisichella in 3rd place in the yellow Jordan, and the race order on lap 21 at Buenos Aires is Villeneuve leading Irvine by nearly 20 seconds. Fisichella 3rd, just ahead of Johnny Herbert, with Ralf Schumacher storming along behind them, but not catching either of them, which will not please Schumacher at all, because there is an intense rivalry between Schumacher, the German, and Fisichella, the Italian, as Olivier Panis watches the racing. And the tyre covers are now, I can tell you, off the Williams tyres and wheels for Villeneuve's car. That's Johnny Herbert, and he's on lap 21. And through goes Alesi. Alesi's got past Damon. He takes him again. Great stuff, Damon.
Alesi went so deep on the brakes on the dirty side of the track, and Damon just held his time.
James Allen, come in.
Jacques Villeneuve comes in. I'm trying to see his eyes to see how he looks. Incredible pressure on the man, feeling so ill. I spoke to him this morning. He said, I feel like death today. But he's driving at 7.5 seconds for Jacques Villeneuve. The Williams crew, I have to say, looking very relaxed. Patrick Head has got the answer now what happened to Frentzen, and he's concentrating now on focusing on winning this race.
Look at this, look at this. This is Villeneuve rejoining with new tyres, and that's Eddie Irvine, who's caught him as Johnny Herbert comes into the pits. So, Johnny Herbert in the Sauber, and you'll be pleased to notice that we've got this time our pit stop time.
It's a good stop, 7.3, an important stop there. The Sauber team need to get Johnny Herbert ahead of the Jordan on the track, because I believe he's actually faster than Fisichella, and they need to use their strategy to give him track position. They'll be quite pleased with that stop. We'll have to see how Fisichella's go. How good is Fisichella on his in-lap? How good can Jordan do him to stop? And can they get him back out on the track in front of Herbert?
Well, we're on lap 22 now, which is just under third distance, and Ferrari are ready for Eddie Irvine, which of course will break up the pattern here. Panis has stopped, we don't know the reason why, and out of the pits comes Rubens Barrichello, who has stopped and was up to 8th position. Now this is a man to watch. His feelings are running high. He will have been very distressed by what happened at the start. The Stewart was in superb condition, and it still is, obviously, because Rubens Barrichello is only 1/10 of a second behind Jos Verstappen when he came in.
Yes, it was a smart move to pull Barrichello in early, because he was being held up. He was being held up by Verstappen, no doubt about it. They called him in early to give him a new set of boots. And 2 Brits in the top 3. It's a good day for the British drivers so far. And the 2 Jordans looking incredibly strong.
And those 2 Britons are Eddie Irvine second, and still leading is Jacques Villeneuve on lap 23 in Buenos Aires.
Here's Simon Taylor.
Yes, Villeneuve made an early stop, came out having made his first routine stop, still holding the lead, but then Eddie Irvine coming just about 1 second, running just about a second behind Villeneuve, but of course he still had a stop to make. And as Irvine came into the pits, it was a quick stop for him, 7.3 seconds. 7.3 seconds was just the time also that Herbert had made. Here we ride with Eddie Irvine as he comes in. Watch these Ferrari mechanics. They're going to be quickest on the tyres, but they've got 60 litres of fuel to get in. The tyres are already done. 6 seconds. Off comes the fuel line. 7.3 seconds. Eddie Irvine rockets down the pit lane. But while he's been there, the Jordans of Giancarlo Fisichella and Ralf Schumacher have gone second and third.
Yes, indeed they have, because as the Stewart comes into the pits again, that's Fisichella and Schumacher colliding, and they were second and third.
They run into each other. It's absolutely incredible. The 2 Jordans have tripped over each other. It looks like Ralph had a go at him, and they both went off the road. I'm just about to say, I have a feeling these guys are going to one stop today, and they're sitting absolutely pretty, and they've run into each other.
That is the worst thing that you can possibly do as teammates. I remember when that happened with the McLaren teammates once, and there was a real inquest afterwards, because if there's one thing you've got to keep clear of in a racing car, it's your own teammate. And Schumacher, I'm blaming him at the moment. I didn't actually see the collision, but there is Fisichella's car being pushed away, and the Italian was in second place, and it now means that Ralf Schumacher is second in the Jordan Peugeot, 9 seconds behind Villeneuve.
Yes, but did Ralf damage his front suspension? It was into turn 3. There's a blind brow into that corner. It is very easy to outbrake yourself going in there. They weren't particularly close at the beginning of that lap, certainly not close enough, so whether one of them made a mistake. That's Barrichello out of the race. What a shame.
Yeah, oh, what a pity. So that's Barrichello out, Fisichella out, Schumacher, Michael out, David Coulthard out, Heinz-Harald Frentzen out. But that one is the worst of all, to me. As Nicola Larini comes in, he was in 10th position in the Sauber Petronas. That is the Petronas engine, which is basically a Ferrari engine rebadge. A very long stop, but they're having trouble with the nozzle. It's terribly heavy, that. You need 2 men, actually, to support that nozzle and the hose. And, of course, Larini has now seen Mika Salo go past him, Jos Verstappen go past him.
They'll have to send him out and refuel Johnny Herbert's rig and use Herbert's rig, unless they can get it to go this time. There it is, it's gone on now, but his afternoon is effectively over with that. It's too competitive now to recover from a 37-second pit stop.
Jacques Villeneuve crosses the line to complete another lap. He's into his 27th lap now out of 72. He's some 10 seconds ahead of Ralf Schumacher that we're riding with as he goes into turn 1.
I can't see any damage to Schumacher's car. I assume they must have touched wheel to wheel, or maybe even Fisichella just lost it by himself and Shui had to avoid him. We'll have to wait to see a replay, hopefully. I don't see any damage there at all, and Schumacher's now recovered to his original lap time, so he looks like he's on his way, but there's going to be some explaining to do back at the Jordan pits.
Yeah, a lot of people are probably saying, why are you blaming Ralf Schumacher when you didn't see the accident? My answer is that one of the Jordan people said to me yesterday, Ralf Schumacher goes absolutely ballistic if he ever sees Fisichella in front of him in times or on the track, and I'm assuming he went ballistic there. Maybe he didn't, but anyway, he's in second place and he is catching Villeneuve. He's catching Villeneuve. It's only 8.6 seconds.
And the other thing is, we believe this car is on a one-stop strategy. We believe they're going to go through to something around lap 36 and use their harder tyres this afternoon, so his pace is incredible. If they didn't run into each other, they fell off in sympathy, that's for sure.
This man is 21 years old. He's the younger brother of double world champion Michael Schumacher. He's a gigantically talented young driver. Eddie Jordan appointed him to the team last year as a calculated gamble because of his potential. And Gary Anderson, the designer of the Jordan team, has produced a brilliant chassis, and the Peugeot Power, which is propelling it, is arguably the greatest of all from the V10 racing engines of today.
Yeah, he nearly lost it there on the way in. The bump caught him out on the way in, and Jolly nearly lost it back. James is in the pits with some more news.
Yes, Martin, some long faces down, as you can imagine, the cross team. They find out what happened now. The engine stopped, so Panis just forced to just park it up. And I spoke to one of the team members. He said it was a real tough break today. We think we could have won this race because we were on a 2-stopper and Villeneuve on a 3. We reckon on the computer says we would have been ahead at the end of this race. So a bad break all round.
Ralf Schumacher, that you're looking at, had an enormous number of spins in the free practice periods and qualifying, finding the limits of the Jordan, but he needs to keep a cool head on his shoulders now. He's got the gap down to 6.75 seconds as Mika Salo brings the Tyrrell in from 10th position. Now, lap 27, here is the order. Villeneuve is leading by 6.7 seconds. Salo has stalled.
Now, they're taking the gurney flap off the back wing there. I don't see the point in holding a car up for that. I really don't, not to have that kind of muddle. Here we go. Yes, he's gone up the inside of him. Fisichella had no idea he was there. Sorry, Ralf, you should not have been doing that. No way you should have been putting your car in that position, even for yourself, let alone your teammate.
So he did go ballistic. Villeneuve leading by 6.7 seconds. And he's ahead of Larini. That's Villeneuve in the Williams. There is Larini. Look back. That's Ralf Schumacher in the yellow Jordan in second place. Jordan have yet to win a Grand Prix. The conventional wisdom is that they've got to do very, very well in Grand Prix racing by the Canadian Grand Prix in June to retain the Peugeot engine next year, because Alain Prost's team is going to be using it definitely. And now the gap is down to 5.8 seconds, and it was 9 seconds between Schumacher and Villeneuve. Race order: Villeneuve leads, Schumacher second, Irvine is third and well back, 15 seconds. Johnny Herbert is fourth, Mika Häkkinen is up to fifth, Jordan Lacey is sixth, Deniz is seventh, Berger is eighth, Hill is ninth, and Verstappen is 10th.
Yes, I think Villeneuve's in amongst some back markers, which is not helping his progress, but somebody's going to be on his radio shortly saying, hurry up, chap, we've got a very fast Jordan out there, and it's on a one-stop strategy, and it's catching you up. So I'm expecting Villeneuve to get clear of that traffic. He's catching Nakano now, and then just be getting on with it, because Villeneuve's now in the same straight. This is Berger having a go at Deniz up the inside. Looks clean-cut. Nothing too dramatic there. Maybe Gerhard ran wide. I don't know. We lost it, unfortunately.
Anyway, he's up to 7th position now by passing Pedro Deniz. The Arrow's doing very well, nevertheless, because Deniz is 8th and Damon Hill is in 9th position. Now, the people who have made stops, as you watch Schumacher going through, and I'll tell you what the gap has come down to, and they've now completed 30 laps. Villeneuve has stopped, and Schumacher, that you're looking at, hasn't, but we think he's probably on a one-stop strategy. Irvine has stopped in 3rd place, Herbert has stopped in 4th place, Mika Häkkinen is 5th and has not stopped, Jordan Lacey is 6th and has not stopped, and the gap is 5.5 seconds.
And Lacey's just achieved the fastest lap of the race, a new lap record, and Häkkinen in 5th place is flying, and he has done absolutely nothing all weekend. They're both on one-stop strategies, and they're coming through strong. They've suddenly sniffed a good result today, and they're getting on with it at last.
Yeah, I'm just checking on the temperature now, because the temperature is now 35 degrees. I said earlier on, the hotter it got, the better the Benetton and McLaren and Jordan were going to like it, and the less Villeneuve on a two-stop strategy on soft tyres is going to like it. Nick Worth, the Benetton designer, said to me before this race began, we're on a calculated gamble, Murray. The hotter it gets, the better we're going to like it, and it is getting hotter.
Well, we saw Lacey struggling very badly with this car through qualifying yesterday when the track was nowhere near as hot. But the car looks fine today. It looks like it's changing direction well. The back end is staying with him, and he's pushing hard. So watching now Häkkinen and Lacey coming through. Gerhard's not that far behind them either.
Now, Schumacher is now static behind Jacques Villeneuve. Villeneuve has maintained the gap on lap 31 at about 6 seconds. But Irvine is catching in 3rd position, Ralf Schumacher, who is 2nd. Herbert is catching Irvine, and Häkkinen is catching Herbert. And they are 3rd, 4th and 5th. And Jordan Lacey is catching all of them. This race has come alive. It hasn't exactly been out all race. But we're on lap 31 now, and it is developing beautifully.
Well, another 129.0 for Lacey on that last flying lap, so he's really got the bit between his teeth. We haven't mentioned Eddie Irvine much. He's been minding his own business all afternoon, trotting along there in 3rd place, having already completed his pit stop. Remembering, of course, that Ralf Schumacher's stop, as he's on a one-stop strategy, they've got to get a lot of fuel in that car. His stop is going to be quite slow when he finally makes it around mid-distance.
Now, Villeneuve is coming up to Nakano, the Japanese driver, who is in 15th place. And ahead of Nakano is Katayama. Now, they're both not top drivers, one honestly has to say. Are they going to be watching their mirrors? Are they going to be able to see Jacques Villeneuve? There he is coming up behind them. And are they going to yield to the French-Canadian, who goes through and completes his 31st lap? Behind him is Nicola Larini in the Sauber Petronas. And on lap 32, Villeneuve leads Schumacher, who has once again started to catch Villeneuve, who's been held up in traffic. The gap is down to 5.7 seconds. Irvine is 3rd, Herbert is 4th and catching the Ferrari. Now we are with Ralf Schumacher. This is the 2nd place man, and 5.6 seconds up the road. In front of him is the race leader, Jacques Villeneuve, lap 32, 72 lap race. And there's a big gap between Schumacher and Irvine of 9.3 seconds. Williams leads, Jordan second, Ferrari third, Sauber fourth, Johnny Herbert, McLaren fifth, Mika Hakkinen, Benetton sixth, Sean Lacey. 6 different constructors in the top 6 places. That is good Formula One. There is Villeneuve, and there is Schumacher.
And Ralph is all over the road. He's really charging. Villeneuve responded with a 30.1, and then Schumacher on the next lap redoubled his efforts to catch him with a 29.6. Villeneuve is cruising along. Ralph is using everything he's got at the moment. I suspect Jacques will be doing no more than he has to this afternoon, given how he's feeling to win this race. But he hadn't better underestimate this young guy if he doesn't fling himself off the road, because he's really pushing that car hard.
So lap 32, Villeneuve, Schumacher, Irvine, Herbert, Hakkinen, Lacey, and we're only about half the way through the race. Now, Jacques Villeneuve has got Shinji Nakano in front of him, but almost a lap behind him on track distance, and Katayama is ahead. And that's Damon Hill. Damon Hill stopping in the arrows. He was in 8th position, so poor Damon has yet to finish a race, and Michael Schumacher is coming in. Are you there, James Allen? Well, here is Schumacher. He was 2.6 seconds behind Jacques Villeneuve. Now, this is lap 35, and that indicates to me, Martin, a one-stop strategy.
Absolutely no doubt about that. If he can get out in under 12 seconds, it'll be a good stop for a one-stopper, and no problem at all. They'll be very pleased with that. Rejoining the race, 120 kilometers per hour until the white line, and then nail it. This outlap is so important, but that's bad news for him. He's now going to get hooked up in the scrap between Lacey and Hakkinen. Track position has not worked well for him there at all. So the thing that's going to save him is that these two are going to be stopping anytime soon anyway. So I think the problem might solve itself. Damon went past the pits. Damon went past the pits sounding extremely sick going into that lap. So it doesn't surprise me to see him pulling off. I suspect he had an engine problem of some sort.
Yeah, and that is the 6th retirement. Damon Hill out in the arrows. There's still a lot of work to do on that car. And Jacques Villeneuve has got ahead of Ukyo Katayama and ahead of Shinji Nakano. He's on lap 35 now. His lead has increased, of course, as Ralf Schumacher has been in for a tyre stop. So all the top 4 now have been in, and the top 4 on lap 35 out of 72, half distance, are Villeneuve. In 2nd position now is Eddie Irvine. In 3rd place is Johnny Herbert. And there is Villeneuve as Nicola Larini goes through and takes Ukyo Katayama and moves up into 12th position, and into the pit lane comes Lacey. Now, James, are you there?
I'm here indeed, Murray. A set of scrubbed Goodyear tyres ready for Jean Lacey, the mercurial Jean Lacey, as he's often been called, and boy, he's really showing it today. The team go into action, all these Benetton guys, 3 men on each front tyre, rear tyre, every quarter. Now, it'll be very interesting to see what kind of lap times Lacey can keep up. The temperature here is pretty much constant. The sun is shining, 12.5 seconds, and I think that Lacey's going to be able to very much keep up the momentum he's had in that latter part, but also Jacques Villeneuve's crew are now ready for him. I'll whiz up there and take a look at that.
Yeah, don't think for one moment that this race is settled, because Sean Lacey rejoins after his one and we think only stop. Some of you probably wondered what those 2 strips of curved metal under the car were when he drove in. They are earthing strips for an obvious reason. And Jacques Villeneuve now on lap 36 is leading Eddie Irvine in the Ferrari, both of whom have stopped by 11 seconds. Now, Irvine has been in the points once for Ferrari. That was his first Grand Prix for the team at Melbourne, Australia last year. And he's had a lot of stick recently because of people accusing him of driving into people, not the least of these accusers being Jacques Villeneuve, who pulls off a vision strip from his helmet as he goes past the pits. Now look back and look for the red Ferrari of Eddie Irvine, and it is a red Ferrari these days and not a scarlet one in its new colour scheme. And Eddie Irvine is in second position, 11 seconds behind Jacques Villeneuve, but only 2.7 seconds ahead of Johnny Herbert. There he is, who is in third position. So Herbert is driving an absolutely superb race. There is Irvine, there is Herbert. And Johnny Herbert, as Gerhard, we're looking backwards from the rear fend mounting camera of Berger's Benetton, sixth position. 11.2 seconds, so Gerhard Berger was a second faster than Sean Lacey on his pit stop.
I think the critical pit stop now for the midfield scrap is going to be how quickly McLaren can turn Hakkinen around and see if he can keep him ahead of a Lacey. A Lacey stop at 12 odd seconds wasn't particularly good. I think McLaren may just keep their man with track position. But Villeneuve's got to get on it now and get enough space between himself and Ralf Schumacher to have track position to come out from his second stop ahead of Schumacher on the road. Otherwise he's got to overtake him, and I suspect it's going to be a very close call.
And he is 24 seconds ahead of Ralf Schumacher at the present moment. Villeneuve leading, Schumacher in fifth position, and we think that Villeneuve is coming in very shortly as we ride with Mika Hakkinen in the McLaren Mercedes in fourth position, coming through to complete the lap, chasing Johnny Herbert, but a long way behind the Sauber. There is Mika Hakkinen in the really, locking right up as he goes. You break from about for 180 miles an hour to 50 miles an hour, and Louise Goodman is with Damon Hill.
Damon, the look on your face says it all. What happened to you at the end there?
Well, I got an overheating problem, and then I lost air pressure, which meant the engine, eventually something happened to the engine, broke, and we had to stop.
Tell us about the scrap you were having earlier on with Jean Alesi.
Well, it was all very exciting because you know, the start was very exciting for one point of view, and then we were having a good race, and I knew it was going to get me sooner or later. And I went into the first corner and defended it a bit, and he just came across my front like that. He squeezed me a lot, and I spun, and he spun, and that put us back a bit, but it was exciting.
Thanks very much. Back to you, Murray.
Well, you're watching the one man in the top six who has not yet stopped. It's Mika Hakkinen. And the race order as the Williams mechanics wait to bring in Jacques Villeneuve for his second stop. Here he is, James.
Yes, Jacques Villeneuve comes in now. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens here. It's a much shorter pit lane than in Brazil, about 30 seconds for a stop. So I think it's going to drop him down to about fifth place, behind some of the one-stoppers. 10.9 seconds, and not a bad effort, but he's going to be behind some of these one-stoppers. So Jacques Villeneuve has got a lot of work to do now.
And Eddie Irvine leads. Eddie Irvine has got ahead of Jacques Villeneuve on the pit stop. Was that a spinner I saw? Yes, it was. It's one of the Minardis and Nakano. Shinji Nakano has collided, therefore, with Ukyo Katayama, and we are now with Eddie Irvine, and I can't remember Eddie ever leading a Grand Prix before. Probably 50,000 people will phone in and tell me that he did, but I can't remember it. He's leading now. Eddie Irvine on lap 39, having stopped, is ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, who has stopped twice. Here's a replay.
Yes, he just lost it by himself, and Nakano went off again in sympathy there, locked his brakes. His attention went to the spinning Minardi instead of what he was doing, and just followed suit, really. Johnny kept his head and just stayed off the brake pedal and turned the steering wheel, which is what you should do in that instant.
Now, it looked to me, Martin, as though Johnny Herbert had got ahead of Villeneuve as well, or did my eyes deceive me?
Well, there's no doubt about it. Villeneuve's got a lot of traffic ahead of him, and he's got a lot of work to do. Irvine's going merrily along, but I still think the man to watch is Schumacher back there in fifth place, because he's still pumping in good lap times, and well, really, he's going to have very good track position. I wonder if Villeneuve's got to stop yet again. I mean, we're only just over half distance. It was quite a long stop in 10 odd seconds, so they put quite a bit of fuel in. I wonder if they've fueled him to the end, but I'd be surprised.
In comes Johnny Herbert from second place in the Sauber. This is the stage of the race where things start to get very confusing indeed, but that was an excellent stop. I didn't see the time, largely because there wasn't one. But Johnny Herbert rejoins. Let's see who is behind him. Here is Eddie Irvine. He's on lap 40 with 32 laps to go, 1 stop completed. And Jacques Villeneuve now should have moved back into second position ahead of Johnny Herbert, who came in for that pit stop. With Mika Häkkinen back in the fray, travelling very quickly indeed. And Ralf Schumacher, Martin's choice, and we'll soon see what the situation is there. And Rubens Barrichello is going to tell Louise Goodman exactly what happened to him.
Rubens, that was a fairly eventful race for you. Tell us about the start, first of all.
Well, I had a good start. I was running well at the end of the straight. I was running wide on the corner, very wide actually. I wasn't close to anyone. Suddenly I felt a touch, and when I saw the things again, I was in front of Schumacher, and I couldn't do much. I lost my nose. I think the car wasn't really good, but I was having a pretty good race. You know, the tires were surviving really, really well, and I overtook a lot of people. But unfortunately, I had a problem with the engine at the end.
Thanks, Rubens.
And as Mika Häkkinen comes into the pits, he was in third place. Jacques Villeneuve has gone through behind Eddie Irvine, 9 seconds.
New tyres for Häkkinen, brand new tyres. He really attacked that pit lane, and that is a great stop. That's going to keep him well ahead of Jean Alesi. A great stop there by McLaren. They're one stopping, of course, sticker tyres on it. He's got to treat them with a little bit of respect for the first couple of laps, and that gives Häkkinen very good track position, and I suspect a very surprising result for him here today if he keeps it running.
We were riding there for a little while with Eddie Irvine, who is leading the Argentinian Grand Prix. The man from Conlig in County Down. This is his 51st Grand Prix. Is it going to be his first victory? Ferrari, of course, has not won a Grand Prix since the 3 that Michael Schumacher won in 1996, the last of which was that brilliant victory in the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. And that is Jacques Villeneuve, now in second position, some 9 seconds behind Eddie Irvine. So we really are down to strategy now. We don't know whether Jacques Villeneuve, with 32 laps still to go, is going to go right through to the end of the race. I would have thought not. Eddie Irvine on 1 stop, maybe going through to the end of the race. And here is Villeneuve now with that 10-second gap. And Irvine is not only leading, but he's the fastest man on the track. He's just made a new lap record, 1 minute 28.8. We're with him.
Yeah, I think he's on a 2-stopper, but he's coming past the pits now and seeing P1, we think for the first time ever in a Grand Prix, and he's responded beautifully to that, and he's pumping in 29.0, 28.9, and now 28.8, very consistent, very fast, a new lap record. Eddie has really responded to his newfound responsibility of heading a Grand Prix for the great Ferrari team.
Well, while you watch Mika Häkkinen in the silver McLaren Mercedes, let's look back to what happened at the beginning of the Argentinian Grand Prix when Michael Schumacher had a coming together with Rubens Barrichello, which led to Schumacher's retirement. Barrichello managed to get back into the race. The safety car came out for several laps. If I remember correctly, it was about 4 laps. The race restarted. We haven't had all that many retirements. We're on lap 42 now. 15 drivers still in the race. But Heinz Harald Frentzen is a notable retirement with a mystery ailment in the Williams. Olivier Panis, who is in second place and driving brilliantly with a potential victory in his grasp, retired the Prost Mugen. Rubens Barrichello finally went out. Giancarlo Fisichella and Ralf Schumacher collided when they were battling for second place, and we're inclined to blame Ralf Schumacher for that. Damon Hill retired. You've just heard him talking to Louise Goodman, and Ukyo Katayama is now 4 laps behind in 15th position. Pedro Diniz is 14th. The race leader is Eddie Irvine on lap 43. You're looking at him now, and he's increasing his lead. As I said, he's not only leading, but he's the fastest man on the track with that new lap record of 1:28.8, compared with the previous lap record of Jean Alesi of 1:29.4. He's nearly 11 seconds ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, but if the 6th Jacques Villeneuve, who started this race in a very, very run-down, literally, situation, can stay where he is. He's on 6 World Championship points. David Coulthard has retired from the race, and Coulthard and Villeneuve started this race equal in the World Championship. So Villeneuve would extend his lead in the World Championship even if Eddie Irvine won. And it's a long way yet to go. Lap 43, as Eddie Irvine comes up to lap Mika Salo, who is in 11th position in the Tyrrell. So Eddie has lapped everybody up to 11th place man. Irvine has done another fastest lap. He's really got the bit between his teeth. And there are the Ferrari mechanics waiting to bring him in. So it's clear now why he's sprinting. He's trying to increase the gap over Villeneuve, who will take the lead.
That's right, he came in around 22, 23 to indicate his two-stop strategy, and he's really been pushing hard now to try to get himself some clear air and get some track position on this pit stop. But Villeneuve's really got to start pushing hard. Maybe he's in no shape to push as hard as he needs to push today because his pace is not strong. Irvine has really begun to understand what's in front of him this afternoon, the possibilities. But his biggest handful, if Villeneuve can't respond, his biggest handful is going to be Ralf Schumacher to win this race. And
Ralf Schumacher is gaining on Jacques Villeneuve. The gap between second and third place men, Villeneuve and Schumacher, is 9.2 seconds. We are still seeing a potential first victory for Ralf Schumacher in only his third Grand Prix. James Allen, I can tell you that Irvine has just entered the pit lane now.
Yes, he is very leery as he comes in. Not as bad as Mika Hakkinen, though. He was all over those curves. But in comes Eddie. I'm standing in the Ferrari garage, and let me tell you guys, the sense of will from these Ferrari mechanics for Eddie to win this race. He's taken a serious kicking in the Italian press in the last few weeks. They say he's no good, but he's leading this race. He's slightly long on the fuel, but a lot of smoke coming off the tyres.
Stop, James! Villeneuve's just gone through. Look at the exit. There, look for Villeneuve. There he is. That's Villeneuve. He's retaken the lead. And Schumacher, there is Schumacher. So, Villeneuve leads. Irvine has rejoined in second position, and Ralf Schumacher is in third place, catching the Williams. Wonderful. Lap 45, and off goes Jos Verstappen in the Tyrrell, and he was in 7th position. So, as you watch Jacques Villeneuve in in first position ahead of Eddie Irvine and Ralf Schumacher. Here is a replay. Let's see what happened.
Well, it has to be Hakkinen. He's the only McLaren left in. Yes, just having a good move up the inside of Deniz, lapping Deniz, in fact, at that time, but clearly on a good charge. Poor stop there for Ferrari, very poor stop. Took them 2 seconds longer than it should have, and that's not going to help Eddie's situation at all this afternoon. A good in-lap from Eddie was even quicker than the lap record, just to demonstrate to you how much shorter the pit lane is than the racetrack.
Well, this race has been running an hour and 15 minutes, and over that big bump, that's the bump at turn 16, in comes Mika Salo. Mika Salo in the Tyrrell. He's now, of course, been lapped by the race leader on account of this pit stop. Not a bad time, 9.9 seconds. And Jacques Villeneuve is on his way, but is it enough? Because Schumacher is now only 3.4 seconds behind Eddie Irvine, who is 9 seconds behind Villeneuve. Here is Schumacher, and that is Irvine in front of him. Irvine has stopped twice, Schumacher has stopped once. Villeneuve leads, Irvine second, Schumacher is third, and Schumacher is catching Eddie Irvine's Ferrari. There is the proof. Lap 48 at Buenos Aires, no change in the top 3, but it's getting very, very close indeed. Jacques Villeneuve has stopped twice, he's still leading. He's 12 seconds ahead of Eddie Irvine's Ferrari, which is 4 seconds ahead of Ralf Schumacher's Jordan, which is 9 seconds ahead of Johnny Herbert's Sauber, and Sauber is catching Schumacher that we are riding with now. Schumacher's got the hammer right down. He's just passed and lapped Mika Salo. Race order then as we join the Benetton of Jean Lacey going through and lapping. And the race order is Villeneuve leading, Irvine second, Schumacher third, Ralf Schumacher. Johnny Herbert is fourth, Hakkinen is fifth, and Lacey is sixth.
Yes, Villeneuve responding now to the job he's got to do this afternoon. I think there's full realisation that although he's got the fast enough car to win this race, he's got to keep a close eye on Irvine and Ralf Schumacher, and it's a 1:28.4, a new lap record for Villeneuve, and followed by a 1:28.5 on the very next lap. So he's getting stuck in. He needs some clear air because those two are chasing each other very hard, and they're going to chase him down too.
Well, now let's look at the World Championship situation.
And yet another new lap record for Villeneuve, 1:28.1, and well, he's saying, look chaps, I've got it here, I'm not feeling that sick, I'm not feeling great, but I can respond to you.
And that's Nicola Larini in the Sauber Petronas, and he's pretty clearly retiring from the Argentinian Grand Prix after his pit stop. He'd just been in for a pit stop. He was in 8th position, and the mice are getting the machinery a bit now. We've got 12 people left out of the 22 who started, with Villeneuve the fastest on the track, leading the race. This is the 160-mile-an-hour Ascari turn.
Yes, he's taking a nice late apex. He was absolutely flat out for Ascari before that, using the curbs now, keeping it tight into this one. This corner really can catch you out. Onto the main back straight now. He looks well under control, doesn't he? Take it up to about 150 into the centre S. We cut back to Larini. He just made the pit stop. He'd obviously dropped the clutch heavily or something like that, or the gearbox didn't want to, the clutch may have overheated in the stop, something like that, and he didn't manage to get the car out of the box.
Another 24 laps to go, though, Martin, for Villeneuve, and it's some time since he came in. Do you think he's going to make a third stop?
I really don't know. If he doesn't, it's a strange strategy. They haven't divided the race up particularly evenly, but I think they may well have started this race 3-stopping and tried to change it to a 2-stop given the length of his last pit stop, but we don't know exactly. Well, the excitement is we'll all have to wait and see.
Yep, and we're with Ralf Schumacher now, coming through to complete his 49th lap in this 72-lap race, in 3rd position behind Jarno Trulli. He's just lapped the Italian who's in 9th place.
I think that's probably spoiled Ralph's afternoon. It's taken him a long, long time to get past Trulli. He's dropped a full 6 seconds behind Irvine with that, and he now has to push. Ralph will now push very, very hard on this next 2 or 3 laps to reassert the pressure on Irvine, and he just took too long. He had to be cautious through those back markers, but he had to be positive, and he had to really stamp his authority on them. But it's new territory for Ralph. Hair up in running in the top 3 for the first time in his Grand Prix career, in his first season of Grand Prix racing, and well, caution is better than tripping over them.
Yeah, he may well be getting that advice over the radio from the Jordan pit, but all credit to him. Now, lap 50 out of 72. Top 6 gaps and stops. There's Villeneuve. He's leading Eddie Irvine by 15 seconds. Both of them have stopped twice. Ralf Schumacher is 21 seconds behind Villeneuve, catching Irvine, and has stopped once. Johnny Herbert is 4th, 29 seconds behind Villeneuve. He's stopped twice, and he's catching Schumacher. Hakkinen is 5th, and he has stopped once. Lacey is 6th. And the rest of the runners, Gerhard Berger is 7th, Magnussen is 8th, Trulli is 9th and has been lapped, as has Mika Salo 10th. Meccano is 11th, Deniz is 12th, Larini is out of the... well, he's just rejoined, but he's 2 laps down in 13th place. And the retirements, Jos Verstappen, Ukko Katayama, Damon Hill, Giancarlo Fisichella, Rubens Barrichello, Olivier Panis, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and, of course, David Coulthard and Michael Schumacher, who failed even to complete 1 lap after the collision with Rubens Barrichello at the start, which was followed by the safety car coming out. So lap 51, that's Eddie Irvine, 2nd place, 16 seconds behind Villeneuve, 7 seconds ahead of Schumacher.
Yes, he's losing 1.3 seconds a lap at the moment to Villeneuve. Villeneuve really standing on the gas pedal, and making himself a bit of space. So if he can get 24 seconds ahead, even if he stops again, he will have track position. Here we are with Ralph. He's sort of settled back down into the 30s now, as if he's not so happy with his second set of tyres. He really hasn't been charging since his pit stop in the way that he did earlier in the race. The car's still going to feel a little bit fat, a little bit heavy with so much fuel on board, remembering that a kilo of fuel is 200ths of a second per lap, and there's a lot of kilos in that car at the moment, something around 90 to 100 kilos of fuel after his stop, and he's going to have to work that fuel down now, and then the car may start handling a bit better. That amount of fuel is such a big percentage of the weight of the car that it can quite dramatically affect the car. That tape, the tape that's flicking off the bag is stuff they put on the engine cover to close the gaps. It's not going to cause him any problems. Louise down in the pits.
Down in the pits with Giancarlo Fisichella, I can tell you he is not looking like a happy man at all. Giancarlo, can you tell us what happened there?
Nothing. I won't speak after Ralph.
I guess that means no. That's all we're going to get from him for now.
Yeah, but if a few words could tell a story, those few words told them. Giancarlo Fisichella and Ralf Schumacher that we're riding with now, Schumacher in third place, were not the best of friends as an Italian and a German in the Irish-dominated Jordan team before this race began, and having committed the cardinal sin of colliding with each other, caused, we think, by Ralf Schumacher, there's going to be a heightened tension between them. And Ralf Schumacher is... Oh, and that is Pedro Diniz. That's the second arrows out, with water spurting from the exhaust pipe, which is never a good sign. And Diniz was down in 11th place, a lap adrift. And we're back now with Jean Alesi, 6th position in the Benetton, on his 53rd lap. And he is some 5-6 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen. Look ahead and you may see the McLaren Mercedes on the lot. There it is. There is Mika Häkkinen, the sole McLaren Mercedes driver. And he is trying to set about Johnny Herbert, because Häkkinen is catching the Sauber. He's only 5 seconds behind it. Häkkinen 5th, Herbert 4th.
Yes, Diniz apparently was overheating on his pit stop, so it's not a surprise to see him out of the race. Lacey's pushing hard, but Häkkinen's good stop and new tyres are taking him clear. And Häkkinen now really could start to threaten Johnny Herbert for that 4th place.
Yeah.
Here's a replay of Diniz's problem. I would think the engine blew up so badly there that it's actually locked the back wheels. That's why he actually spun off the track. No other reason than a terminal engine failure, and locks the rear wheels if you don't pull the hand clutch fast enough.
Well, subliminally, as we watch Shinji Nakano pulling off the track, well, they are dropping out now. This is turning out to be a race of attrition. It's very hot here. It hasn't affected either Jacques Villeneuve or the Williams-Renault at the moment. He's on his 54th lap now, looking very good indeed, because he's some 19 seconds ahead of two-stop Eddie Irvine, two-stop Jacques Villeneuve. Ralf Schumacher is catching Irvine's Ferrari.
If they keep dropping out like this, the clown in the pace car is going to win the race, but let's hope not, because Villeneuve is on his way, still pumping in the 28s and looking good on it. So 20.8 seconds ahead now. There's the Williams team coming out. He does have to pit again. He's got 20.8 seconds lead on Eddie Irvine. It's going to be oh so close as to whether he will be ahead of him or just behind him when he comes out of this pit stop. If I'm right in there, yes, they're bringing some tyres out. They're going to stop Villeneuve for a 3rd time, and it's going to be touch and go. I think he's going to have to overtake Eddie Irvine to win this motor race, and Ralph is still there, just 4.5 seconds behind Irvine.
19 laps to go. 19 laps to go. Jacques Villeneuve coming in. We don't think Eddie Irvine is going to. The gap between them is 21 seconds. And when you come in and make a pit stop here, to come in from the pit lane, stop, get going again and rejoin takes at least 26 seconds. So it's going to be mighty close. Jacques Villeneuve is going to be about 21, 22 seconds ahead of Irvine when he comes in. There are the Williams mechanics and the hose man all ready. The other man behind him supporting the hose as well. It's a very, very heavy assembly. They have to get it absolutely right. A second and a half for the nozzle to go in, about a second for the nozzle to come out. The fuel flow rate is 12 litres a second, and Jacques Villeneuve, I think, is going to be coming in this lap, so get ready good and early. James Allen. Villeneuve has broken the lap record again. There is Eddie Irvine going through and lapping Larini in the Sauber.
And let's not forget the enormous war of words that both Villeneuve and Irvine have had together since they had that crash into the first corner of the first Grand Prix. They've been at each other through the press. The press have been pumping it up, and I think it's now going to turn into a wheel-to-wheel scrap on the racetrack. Why Villeneuve was cruising in the mid part of this race, I don't know, because he now realises he's got a lot of work to do. He's putting in new lap records every lap, but I think the damage could be done. He's got to overtake. Now he's going to do another lap. They haven't taken the covers off the tyres. I can see them from the commentary box. He's got to do another lap yet to at least...
He's been told to, we know he's been told to come in on the next lap. Now, the conventional reason that they always give in the conference afterwards when they've had a bad spell, remember that he's on his third set of tyres now, and he'll probably say in the conference after this race, my second set of tyres was not nearly as good as my first, or my third was not nearly as good as my second, or whatever. That's usually the reason they give, but we don't know that there isn't some sort of a problem either with the car or with Villeneuve, but it can't be too great a one at the speed he's lapping. It's record braking speed.
23.3 seconds ahead as he crossed the line of Eddie Irvine on this lap. He's not going to put much fuel in, of course. There'll be very little fueling time. It could be dictated by the time it takes them to change the tyres. The Williams team have got a lot of pressure on them to get this absolutely right. This stop is going to be absolutely crucial, and Ralf Schumacher's still there in the hunt.
Yeah, he is. He's only 4.9 seconds behind Eddie Irvine. Look at Irvine second. There is Schumacher third, and very likely Irvine will just take the lead from Jacques Villeneuve when he comes in. Now the tyre covers are off. Surely Jacques Villeneuve is coming in. James, here he comes. Watch him.
Murray, I can't describe the atmosphere down here in the Williams garage. The tension is unbelievable. Jock Claire, Villeneuve's race engineer, is stroking his leg. He's bouncing up and down. Patrick Head is bouncing up and down. There's immense tension here as Villeneuve comes in. It's almost inevitable he's going to drop back behind Irvine. But what about Ralf Schumacher? A set of scrub tyres are going back on. He's on soft tyres, of course. Villeneuve's eyes, well, he doesn't look too tired. He looks like he's up for a fight. 7.2 seconds on Villeneuve's stop. Good Lord. What's going to happen now, Murray? All eyes over to you.
We haven't seen Irvine yet. He hasn't gone through yet. There he is in the background. So Jacques Villeneuve rejoins the race after his last pit stop in the lead. And in the background, you see Ralf Schumacher in third place. Villeneuve leads. Irvine is second. Ralf Schumacher is third. Herbert is fourth. Hakkinen is fifth. Alesi is sixth. And we're on lap 57 out of 72 with, we believe, all the tyre stops completed. It is a battle to the finish now between that red Ferrari, this red Ferrari of Eddie Irvine, seeing potentially his first ever Grand Prix win on his 51st Grand Prix.
Yes, Villeneuve just swanned into his pit garage. I was surprised how easily he just cruised in. He was calm and relaxed. Good idea, because if you arrive in a cloud of tyre smoke and dust, your mechanics back off. Then they don't follow the wheel nut in, and then they don't make you a good pit stop. They got him out in 7.2 seconds. Disappointing for us. I would love to have seen him on the gearbox of that Ferrari now. I don't see any way that Irvine is going to close that gap. It's a shame for us, the viewers, but anyway, we've got three cars in the same pit straight, and now we'll see who's got the spirit and the character to really charge this one down. Can the second and third place guys attack now, push to the absolute limit for their first Grand Prix wins, or will Villeneuve be cruising home?
It's lap 57. Jacques Villeneuve leads the World Championship. Eddie Irvine has yet to score in the World Championship. Berger is third in the championship and sixth in the race. Michael Schumacher is out of the race. He's fourth in the World Championship. Ralf Schumacher has yet to score World Championship, and that's the news. It's very close. to go, and it is mighty close. Here's the proof. There's Villeneuve leading. There is Irvine second, and there is Michael Schumacher in third place, and less than 8 seconds separates them with those 13 laps to go. Williams ahead of Ferrari, ahead of Jordan.
Yeah, that's Ralphie Schumacher. Michael's still in the Ferrari hat, crying his eyes out over his first corner mistake. But at 7/10 of a second, Irvine took out of Villeneuve on that lap. Jacques does love to give us a bit of excitement. He did this a bit in the Brazilian Grand Prix. Towards the end, we thought that Berger was catching him. But is this genuine? I mean, Eddie is absolutely on a charge. Can he put some pressure on him?
Martin, it's not just Irvine that's catching Villeneuve, it's Schumacher that's catching him as well. Schumacher's now only 5 seconds behind the Williams. Now, I don't know what's going on in the cockpit. I don't know how Jacques Villeneuve feels, but I saw him just before the race began, and he looked like a ghost. He really did. He'd been having a very hard time physically for 3 days. He'd been dehydrated. This race now has been running for some 1 hour and 36 minutes, and the temperature in that cockpit will be very high indeed. Villeneuve is being caught by Irvine. Irvine is ahead of Schumacher, but Schumacher is catching the Williams as well, and we're now about to start lap 61 out of 72.
Yes, I remember that incident in '92, climbing out of bed, having been sick for 1.5 days and just starting the motor race at the Grand Prix and finishing third. But the adrenaline will carry you, but you're just so drained, you have no energy. I just had a bowl of rice in one and a half days, but you can do it. But he's going to be sitting in that car feeling very, very tired, wishing that Ferrari would disappear out of his mirrors, because now he's got to respond. And does he have the energy once again? Remember, he put those blistering laps in, lap record after lap record, and it's going to have taken it out of him. It's like a 3,000-meter runner suddenly putting in some 400-meter sprints in the middle of the race, I would imagine. And let's see if it's taken too much out of Villeneuve, because Irvine is pushing hard, and Ralf Schumacher even harder. The low 28s for Ralf now.
And there's a potential traffic situation, because that's Jan Magnussen ahead of us, and we were with Jacques Villeneuve. There's Villeneuve, there is Irvine. Now, Irvine is a very and there is Schumacher. Now, Irvine is a very nonchalant, laid-back chap who pretends he doesn't care about the criticism he's been getting, but he would be less than human if he really didn't. And your first Grand Prix win is the one that you are always wanting most of all. And Irvine is within sight of getting it. Now, if Magnussen gets in the way of Villeneuve, there could be a change.
Villeneuve went wide in that corner. He went very wide. The bump caught him out. On the nasty bump he talks about, where he closes his eyes in pain, sends the car wide, and a poor lap there, 29.5, another 7/10 of a second out of his lead, and he's going to nip through on the inside. Now Magnussen has let him through, and boy did he need that.
Well done, Jan Magnussen. That was good manners. Incidentally, Johnny Herbert is in 4th place in the Sauber, ahead of Mika Hakkinen, only just ahead of Mika Hakkinen, less than a second, 8/10 of a second, and Hakkinen is going faster. In fact, the gap between Hakkinen in 5th position and Herbert 4th is now only half a second, nothing in it. And Gerhard Berger in 6th place is catching Johnny Herbert. Lap 62, race order, here are the leaders. That's Jean Todt, the boss of Ferrari. Villeneuve is leading Irvine, who's just ahead of Ralf Schumacher 3rd, and the Ferrari fans can sense a victory. And there are Ferrari fans everywhere in the world, no less in Argentina than anywhere else. Look at this. Villeneuve, Irvine, Schumacher.
They were voting in an Italian magazine last week as to whether Irvine will be fired before the season ended, and it was some amazingly high percentage said yes. Talk about zero to hero. He will certainly be a hero already today in Italy, and the Ferrari fans all around the world for this great drive. And he's really attacking now. He's really attacking Villeneuve, and we'll have to see if Villeneuve has the energy, has the determination, has the grip, has the car, has everything to respond to that. I think he probably has.
So Eddie Irvine, who came to Formula 1 in the Jordan team from Formula 3000 in Japan, created a real stir by having a battle with Ayrton Senna, which literally led to blows afterwards. Then into the Ferrari team, to everybody's amazement. He decided he would defer to Michael Schumacher, got very little testing, but now he is getting testing. And look at the result! This is lap 63. Jacques Villeneuve has has got the distance that you can see between him and Irvine ahead of us now, and the fastest man on the track is Gerhard Berger in 6th position. He's just broken the lap record.
Please don't ask me to explain how Gerhard Berger can break the lap record after the weekend performance he's put in this weekend. I can't explain it.
Well, neither can I, but Gerhard is within shouting distance of Mika Häkkinen, who's within sight. In fact, he's under the wing of Johnny Herbert's Sauber. So, a great fight for the top 3 places. Villeneuve, Irvine, Schumacher, lap 63. A great fight for the next 3 places. Herbert, Häkkinen and Berger, 4th, 5th and 6th. Alesi is in 7th place, but well back. And look at the gap diminishing between Villeneuve, race leader, and Eddie Irvine in the Ferrari.
Well, Irvine's responded to the challenge beautifully. Villeneuve's tyres should be in better shape. He's 3 stopped, Eddie's 2 stopped. Of course, they're now on the same fuel load. They're both fueled up to run to the end of the race, so there's no difference there. It's just Villeneuve's tyres should be fresher, but it doesn't seem to be having that effect on the racetrack at the moment, because Eddie's taken yet another 0.6 of a second out of Villeneuve, and it's now less than a second. His lead is less than a second. Eddie's on a charge. Go for it, Eddie.
Martin, I've said it before, and I've said it so many times before. I'll say it again. Catching is one thing, passing is another. You know that. What's going to happen?
Well, it's fair to say that the 4 Renault engine cars and the 2 Peugeot engine cars have been the fastest down the straight all weekend. So Eddie's going to have to work very hard to get in the slipstream and to have a big dive into turn 1.
Well, Irvine is yet to score in the World Championship. We're with Ralf Schumacher now. Gerhard Berger has just done the first lap in under 1 minute 28. He's broken his own 1 lap record of 1 lap earlier, and he's now only 9/10 of a second behind Häkkinen, who's only 7/10 of a second behind Berger, and Irvine is that distance behind Villeneuve.
Well, wakey Gerhard, the race is nearly over, but we don't need to say that to Eddie Irvine, because now he's got him in his sights. It's a lot easier to follow than to lead in this situation under pressure. You just base your braking distance on the guy in front. You know your target. When you're the guy in front, you're looking in your mirrors, and it's too easy to just miss that apex. You're the one dictating the pace. The guy behind you follows your pace and some, and he's going to be closing up very quickly. Just 0.2 of a second on that lap. Eddie's beginning to get into the dirty air that's coming off of Villeneuve's car, that's been worked so hard across the wings and bodywork of Villeneuve's car. Eddie is now arriving into that dirty air, and he's going to have to work a little bit harder now.
And Villeneuve is used to pressure, of course. He's got a distinguished racing career, Formula 3, Formula 3000, Indy champion. He's used to racing wheel to wheel and drafting people on the American ovals. But he's got a clear track. He's on lap 65 in this 72-lap race. And Eddie Irvine has got it all to do, including not just closing that gap, but getting past Villeneuve.
Yeah, he looks very composed, very composed there in that Ferrari, does Eddie Irvine. And I'm sure it's not going through his mind at the moment. He is actually great friends with Jacques Villeneuve. I've seen them together on many occasions. Remember, they raced against each other in Formula 3000 in Japan. They spent a lot of time together, and there's been a lot of vitriol between the 2 of them. And Eddie may just have that in the back of his mind as he's chasing down this guy. And what a way to win his first Grand Prix, if he can blow off Villeneuve in a Williams.
Yeah, and Ralf Schumacher is not so far behind him. We're naturally talking about this battle between Villeneuve and Irvine as they complete their 65th lap and going to lap 66. But Ralf Schumacher is not so far behind in the Jordan. There he was, crossing the line in 3rd place. Johnny Herbert is still 4th, but only 0.4 of a second ahead of Häkkinen, and who is only 0.7 of a second ahead of Berger. Now, we are understandably watching this race for the lead, but really there's one just as good going on for 4th, 5th and 6th, with a Lacey 7th, Magnussen 8th, Salo is 9th, Trulli is 10th, Larini is 11th, and the last runner out of the 22 who started. So half the entry has disappeared, but it's magic, the half that's left.
Well, Villeneuve will have a readout on his computer dashboard of how many laps to go, and he'll be trying not to look at that. Then he'll come past the pits and see it yet again, how many laps to go, and he doesn't want to know. If he's feeling sick in that car, if he's feeling tired, these laps will seem forever. These last 7 laps will seem forever, and he needs this race for his World Championship chances through the year.
And here is Magnussen in the Stewart battling with Larini, and they contact each other, or Larini spins, whatever. Magnussen has gone through and is still in 8th position. But Eddie Irvine, we were talking about fitness. Eddie Irvine's personal trainer is his sister, Sonia, and they have been running together through the streets of Buenos Aires, keeping up their fitness levels, especially his, in the last few days. And it's going to pay off now, because Villeneuve must surely be tiring.
Well, unfortunately, Sonia's fitter than Eddie, but it doesn't seem to show up when it gets to the race, because Eddie's a tough guy, tough mentally, tough physically, and he just wants this race win. He won't be thinking anything now about his fitness. He's just focusing on the rear wing of that Williams.
Well, this is lap 67, and I have to say, push as Eddie Irvine may, and push as Eddie Irvine is doing, if Jacques Villeneuve can go on as he is going for laps 67, which he's on, 68, 9, 70, 71 and 72. He's going to have another 10 World Championship points to add to the 10 that he's already got. Failing that, if Irvine gets past him, he'll have another 6. Either way, he's still going to be leading the World Championship.
On board with Eddie now, you can see the Williams ahead of him there. I think his only way, the only place he's going to pass Villeneuve this afternoon is into turn 1. He's got to get into slipstream coming out of that last hairpin. Villeneuve occasionally runs wide there. That's going to give Eddie his chance. He's got to put Villeneuve under pressure to get him over that bump. Villeneuve can often run wide. He's been doing it all weekend. Get on to his gearbox, slipstream him down the straight and say, OK, Jacques, when you brake, I'm going to brake a little bit later. I'm coming through, take it or leave it. I don't see him passing him anywhere else. And if he's going to do that, he's going to have to hurry up.
Well, this is turn 1. They brake from 180 miles an hour down to 55. Remember that the Williams has been having brake problems. It was a brake failure that took Heinz-Harald Frentzen out of the lead in the Australian Grand Prix. They've been working very hard on them indeed in testing. It's caused by the extra grippiness of these new soft compound tyres, and both Villeneuve and Irvine are on those soft compound Goodyear tyres, incidentally. The Bridgestone runners have failed to reveal the promise that they showed in qualifying, because all the top 6 runners are on Goodyears here now.
Well, I think Villeneuve must have the philosophy of you only need to win the race by a nose, really, because he's just started pulling out 1/10 of a second per lap. Eddie's in that dirty air, as we explained, and Villeneuve is just holding his own. I wouldn't want to play poker with that guy, that's for sure. He just, I don't know whether he plays games or in this car or what, but he did the same in Brazil. He says, OK, come along, have a look, and then I'll be off, thanks.
Yeah, he's 26 years old. He is an astonishingly mature driver, a very different driver in terms of spectacle to his late great father, 6 times a Grand Prix winner, Gilles Villeneuve of Ferrari fame. Gilles Villeneuve, hello, this is Magnussen, I think, going out of the race. It is Jan Magnussen, who was in 8th position, retiring with obviously a blown Ford Cosworth V10. This is lap 69. That is Jacques Villeneuve. Behind him is Eddie Irvine. There are the Williams team looking very laid back. There's nothing else they can do. They've done their job. They've brought Villeneuve in 3 times to give him new boots, and he has responded magnificently. No more magnificently than Eddie Irvine, who's come up from only 7th position on the grid. It wasn't a good starting position for him, but he said he was very confident about the race, as did Michael Schumacher, of course, who collided at the beginning of the race, and John Todt, and his confidence has been entirely justified. Now, if Jacques Villeneuve wins this race, it's going to be his 6th victory for Williams. And remember, he only started his Formula 1 career last year. But is he going to win this race? Because now, what Martin forecast has happened. Eddie Irvine is under the wing of Villeneuve's Williams, and they're about to start the lap and go down to turn 1, which is where he could pass.
Villeneuve made a mistake or something, or he's got a problem, because he lost so much time there. Yes, now he's got on his gearbox. This is your chance, Eddie. This is what we talked about. Now you've got to hang in there, and he'll inside, surely he'll defend. Get away!
And yes, he holds the pace, but Irvine, and this is lap 70 in this 72-lap race. What an absolute cliffhanger! What a nail-biter as they go round the turn together, down to the tremendously fast right-hander, now the S's, and onwards. There's about half this lap left, then 2 laps after it, and Eddie Irvine is in a position still to challenge again, and he probably will be for the next 2 laps.
I think Villeneuve's exhausted in that car. He's really struggling to turn into those tough corners out of the back, turn 7, 8 and 9, where it takes a lot of torque through the steering wheel across your shoulders. And Villeneuve's struggling. He's really struggling now. And Eddie's, just as he was broken Eddie's spirit, he's now handed it back to him, and Eddie's on a charge again.
You're not going to get away with this, Jack, says Eddie Irvine. Irvine said before this race, after Villeneuve had spoken harshly of him, that you find out where your friends are in circumstances like this. Well, he's seeing what he thought was his friend Jack Villeneuve ahead of him now. They're on lap 70. They're coming through to complete the lap. So just this lap that they're starting now, and the next one, and Villeneuve's got enough distance between him to stave Eddie Irvine off this time.
Villeneuve has the fastest car of the two without any shadow of a doubt, on those fresher tyres, and a better car anyway, I believe. But I really believe he's exhausted behind that wheel. He let Irvine get onto his gearbox, but he defended his... Unfortunately, we saw the crowd just when we needed to see Villeneuve defending his line and Eddie having a punt, but it didn't happen. It didn't work out. I think that was Eddie's moment, and he wasn't able to take it.
Well, just to keep you in touch with what's happening behind these two, watch the race for the lead yourselves while I tell you that Ralf Schumacher is still third in the Jordan, 6.5 seconds behind this battle. Johnny Herbert is still fourth in the Sauber, half a second ahead of Mika Häkkinen's McLaren, which is fifth. Gerhard Berger is half a second behind the McLaren in 6th position, so 1 second is covering 4th to 6th. And you can see how much is covering 1st to 2nd, with Ralf Schumacher sandwiched between the battle for the lead and the battle for 4th position as they come through to start the last lap of the 1997 Argentinian Grand Prix. Is Jacques Villeneuve going to make it a 6th victory to equal his great father and get World Championship points, 10 of them, to extend his championship lead over David Coulthard, who started equal with him? Well, here is the last race, the last lap now.
And another great scrap going on behind for Herbert, Häkkinen and Berger. Just 1 second covers the 3 of them going into the last lap.
Schumacher has just started his last lap. I'm watching the line, the start and finish line, to see Herbert, Häkkinen and Berger go across together as you watch the Williams and the Ferrari on their last lap. And these are the S's which lead into turn 11, turn 12 in this 17-turn lap. Villeneuve has got it made. I don't think Eddie Irvine can possibly catch him, never mind get past him. It seems going to be... And over the line has gone Gerhard Berger. He's still in 6th position. Herbert is still 4th. Häkkinen is still 5th. Here we go into the last corners of the 1997 Argentine Grand Prix. The Senna S's coming up.
Unless Eddie can get in within stabbing distance into that last hairpin, there's no other opportunity now between here and the checkered flag.
That was turn 15, 17 turn. It's going to be a fantastically close finish. Villeneuve locks up. This is the last corner coming up now. Jacques Villeneuve wins a magnificent Argentine Grand Prix from Eddie Irvine by 9/10 of a second. Ralf Schumacher dropped back a bit. You can see that the crowd is overjoyed that they decided to come to the Oscar Galvez Autodromo. Ralf Schumacher has finished in 3rd position, his highest finish in only his 3rd Grand Prix, to get 4 World Championship points for the Jordan team. Now we're just waiting for Herbert, Häkkinen and Gerhard Berger, and they cross the line. 1, 2, 3, just like that. Johnny Herbert finishes 4th for Sauber, and those are his first World Championship points of the season. Mika Häkkinen finishes 5th in the points again, as he was for both the previous Grand Prix. So Häkkinen has now got 3 Grand Prix on the trot with World Championship points. Gerhard Berger 6th.
Remembering, of course, there's a story that Jordan have to score some podiums to have any chance of keeping that Peugeot engine. They've got a podium today, but no Jordan mechanics on the pit wall. I don't think they were too impressed with Ralph's overtaking manoeuvre.
Well, you're looking at the podium on which Villeneuve, Irvine and Schumacher will. So there is Eddie. Look, you see, a very, very happy man, paying homage to his sister Sonia. And, well, Jack Villeneuve looking a lot fitter than I expected him to look.
Yeah, he looks happy enough, doesn't he? He certainly got himself out of the car. And he did just enough this afternoon to do what he had to do. I mean, if he'd have won by 3 minutes, it wouldn't have made any difference. He wouldn't have had any more points, and we wouldn't have had such a good race to watch. But I do believe he hadn't got too much left there.
Jacques Villeneuve, as usual, looking as though he's wearing 2 other people's race overalls. He likes a very baggy set of overalls to give him comfort in the car. And he steps now into Charlie Whiting's area, the race director, because that's where all the equipment is that weighs the cars and drivers.
That's right, the drivers have to be weighed before they can go onto the podium procedure, because the cars are weighed, and the combination of car and driver is the total weight inclusive. But quick shot there of the Williams team receiving Villeneuve over the line. Now they're waiting for the procedure.
That's Carlos Reutemann, the great Argentine driver who won so many Grand Prix. He drove for Ferrari, he drove for Brabham, he drove for Lotus, very nearly won the World Championship, and is now a top man in Argentine politics. And on to that podium come the top 3. Dickie Stanford, the Williams team manager, greets Jacques Villeneuve, and here is the Canadian national anthem again. Williams take the lead in the Constructors' Championship by 1 point from McLaren. And here is the national anthem. Well, no words of mine can be enough praise for Jacques Villeneuve. That was an absolutely brilliant win in the face of adversity. And that was his 6th Grand Prix win, to equal the record of his late great father, Gilles Villeneuve, to extend his World Championship lead over David Coulthard by 10 points, and Gerhard Berger, who ties with David Coulthard by 10 points. Eddie Irvine, that's the highest he's ever finished in a Grand Prix, second for Ferrari. What a talent.
Yeah, for me, Eddie Irvine, the driver of the day, he quietly went about his business all day long, up in the top three for so long, and when the chips were down and he had to respond, he did respond. Ralf Schumacher there, his first points, his first podium, a great day for him. I would think he's not looking forward to seeing Fisichella. I'm not sure Fisichella will even speak to him. I have a feeling he has a different action in mind initially.
Champagne time at Buenos Aires. A lot of people think it's a futile gesture, but it's a heck of a lot of fun and a gigantic release for the drivers. Now into the interview room, and we'll soon be hearing what they have to say. Villeneuve, the winner. Irvine, a superb second place, less than a second behind the Williams Renault, and 12 seconds ahead of Ralf Schumacher's Jordan. So, Villeneuve, Irvine, Schumacher. Look at the gap between Herbert 4th, Hakkinen 5th, and Berger in 6th position. Jean Alesi brings the second Benetton home just outside the points. A finish, the first for Mika Salo this year, in 8th position in the Tyrrell. An excellent place for man that many people regard as a potential world champion. 9th position for Jarno Trulli in the Minardi, ahead of Jan Magnussen, and that is the first finish for a Stewart Ford. And Jackie Stewart said to us and to you just before this race began, if he finished in the first 10, he would be overjoyed. He's done it. Well done, Jackie. Well done, Alan Jenkins, who designed the Stewart. Well done, Ford Cosworth. Well done, Jan Magnussen.
I still think Jackie will be disappointed. The Magnussen did drop out just before the end, although he is classified a finisher. He went far enough in the race to be classified in 10th place, but didn't actually see that funny piece of cloth with the black and white squares on.
So the crowd, not wearily wend their way home. I think they'll be as fired up as we have been, as Jacques Villeneuve has been, Eddie Irvine and Ralf Schumacher. And you see, there's the confirmation that Jacques Villeneuve is 10 points ahead of David Coulthard and Gerhard Berger, and 11 points ahead of Mika Hakkinen.
Fantastic result for your 6th career win and your 2nd victory in a row. How did it go for you today?
It was very, very difficult. First of all, Pennis was very quick at the beginning of the race, and I think he had less stops than us. So it was going to be tough, so I don't know what happened to him. But then on the first stop, I had problems with the gear shift. It was staying stuck and the upshift a lot of times. So I slowed down a little bit until I noticed that these two guys that were harder compound were doing a one stop, and it was really, really tough. We had to push hard. The car was very good. The team did a great job the whole weekend, but I think we chose the wrong tires, and with the more rubber on the track towards the middle and the end of the race, we were picking a lot of understeer, and we were blistering the tires, so it was very difficult to keep them behind, and well, they both really impressed me today.
Did you plan to do 3 stops right from the start, or was that a last-minute decision?
No, we had planned to do 3 stops. We weren't expecting anyone to do 1 stop, so we were a little bit surprised, and it almost caught us out.
Were you confident that you were going to hold Eddie off there at the end?
No, because I had huge blisters on the tires, and on low fuel with his tires, he was actually quicker than us. So, you know, when just before we did our last pit stop, I really pushed hard to make sure that we'd pit out in front of them, because I knew that on our last stint with the same amount of fuel, Eddie would be quicker.
Jacques, well done. Eddie, your best podium finish yet. You must be absolutely delighted today.
Yeah, well pleased. I had a feeling all weekend it was going to go well. The car handled a lot better here than it has done in previous races, although we struggled a bit in qualifying, a bit more than I thought we would. But in the race, once the fuel came off, the car was very, very good. And it went, obviously, reasonably well, with a good start also.
Yeah, you qualified 7th and came out of the first corner 4th. What happened on that first corner? Were you involved at all?
I just made a great start, and I came around and I was around the outside of Hines, who just got ahead of me. So I just pulled in behind him, and next thing I came around and I seen the yellows with Michael off, so I don't actually know what happened there.
This is your best result since Australia in '96, so do you think things are finally going to come right for you now and you're going to be up here on a regular basis?
It's been a long wait for sure. I've always said I prefer this car to last year's car. It's still obviously lacking a bit in qualifying, but it's coming together. You know, I had problems in Australia and problems in Brazil with the brakes, which we sorted out. And we're definitely making headway.
Eddie, well done. Ralph, only your third Grand Prix and you finished third. You must be delighted.
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole weekend, especially the qualifying, went quite good. We're choosing the hard tyre, which seemed to be the right decision. I mean, in the point that it was very hot today. Well, I was surprised a bit in the qualifying that we could drive so quick and compared to Williams and Ferrari. Then, well, today in the race, the tyres last a little bit more than I expected them. I mean, I was a bit careful in the beginning. I even couldn't push them much because I was in the traffic. So our strategy worked very good, and I was very satisfied with the car today.
What happened with your teammate? Because you seem to have a bit of an incident there.
Well, yeah, in the corner before the back straight, he missed the line, and then he was too close to me, and I tried to overtake him, and I thought he made space. Then he closed the door. I tried to go over the grass, but I touched him. I don't know what happened to him. Did he continue or not? I don't know. But, I mean, well, it happened, but it's a shame. I mean, it normally shouldn't happen, really, in a team. But, well, I just can... Later I will speak to him.
How confident are you for the rest of the season for yourself and the Jordan team?
Well, so far I think our car worked quite well on all the circuits, so I think we could be quite confident to keep in pace and to have some good results for the rest of the season. I mean, we will work hard on our car, and for sure there's something to work on. For sure,